Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is sensorality? Sensation limits entropy, right? Life has sensation, life can make choices, and those sensations help you reduce energy that cannot be used for work. Entropy is dissonant. Sensorality is resonant. What is vocalization to verbalization? Right, I'll use it all the time. It's used all the time, verbiage or verbiage. He said something a certain way, right? I didn't like his verbiage, or I did like his verbiage. Well, vocalization, any sound you can make to express yourself, and verbalization, very literally built on verbs, but what's the relationship, right? Anything you can vocalize is sound, or sound is anything you can vocalize. Verbalization is more again to the progress of the sentence, the logic, the order of words. Tangent, tangible. Sensorality is tangibility. Versality is sensorial. Viscerality is versality. Scathing is severe. Versing is severe. And if you can't, I'm reading off, again, I have theorems written down, and then I either rederive them or freestyle off of them. But looking for the stabilizing linguistics or iteration of the letters as always. Severe is harsh. And so I think I said versing is severe, but again, you can see versing is severe. Logically, you might be like, again, what does that mean? But again, it's logically consistent, but it's just not specific enough to mean anything. But if you clearly look at the letters, severe contains the letters for verse. So again, trying to find this fundamental differentiation. You start with something, you say not that. Linguistically, it's the same letters, and you have to differentiate those letters, and we're demonstrating that. A bubble is a blip. A blip is transient. Brevity is brief. Briefing discloses. So now, it is time for a pop quiz. There's not a lot of homework on this channel, but this is ad-libs or mad-libs, or that thing you do when you fill in some blank words. So I'm going to say a saying, right? We derived pop, that's hence pop quiz, nice. But she was in the club and she popped that blank for a real blank. Class, go around, write down your answers, see if you can get the right answers. I don't know. Incompetence is ineptitude. Ignorance is inept. Sensorality is inept. Adept is the opposite of inept. Dynamic adapts. Sensorality is adaptation. Sensorality is adaptability. Realization synchronizes. All right, that light bulb moment, that aha, when things make sense, it's synchronization. Synchronization physically produces realization logically. Censoring limits. Censoring emits. So I was just watching something really hilarious. Again, Brian Keating is an absolute pinnacle criminal, as is the entire academic community. This is a derivation of the complete axiomatization of physics. This is the fourth time I've done it. So again, can't remind you enough how illegal this is. No one cares. I will literally be tortured to death publicly. But I'm just documenting as much as I can. But I was watching a podcast on the Demystify Sci podcast, and they stopped over to our wonderful, wonderful colleague, Mr. Brian Keating at University of San Diego, fraud, racketeering, conspiracy, theft, and just overall terrible people. But anyway, they're sitting there talking about, again, I don't really watch the mainstream physicists anymore, so this is a total waste of time. Like I said, there's not even anything to respond to, but there was some tension. You have these two edgy people who, again, I would say they're probably about my age, maybe a little older, but at this point I would say, maybe mid-30s, I mean, pretty much my age. And then you have Brian Keating, who I would say is, and I don't have a good gauge, let's say right on 50, early 50s probably, but, a generation gap between those two. And they're basically talking about the two people on the Demystify Sci podcast. So they're just the pinnacle of grad students that I was exposed to, where it's just like they close their eyes every time they talk. They kind of feel a little bit cumbersome and awkward, but it's just all of the people I interacted with, these two embody that to a T. And so they keep saying something about a lattice, and then Brian Keating keeps responding to a crystalline structure. But point being is they basically get into this argument about, they're trying to articulate saying that CMB is not left over from the Big Bang, and that maybe there's a lattice producing the microwave background right now. And again, as we've proven and reiterated and rederived multiple times, the Big Bang is, again, it's the remnant from the stabilization of R2 into R3. And so, but point being is they basically did this fundamental question of what is a black body? Because that's the big term from, I don't know when it was, the early 1900s, when it was like the iron catastrophe, when all of the atoms would collapse and there'd be no structure to the universe. But the term black body is not really, right, a body that's black, that's racist as shit. But point being is black body is not well defined physically. But intuitively and conceptually, the question they're asking is, right, are there closed systems? Do things emit? And we just derived sensorality emits. But right, when we're talking, you can go watch the conversation if you're in the physics world whatsoever. But every time they say black body, what they're asking basically are, do objects have temperature? And yes, right, every object has temperature. And you can't get to zero because of geometry. You can't bump, you would always be vibrating, you'd always be bumping into things. And so it's just, again, neither side knows anything about physics. Because before, when I'm talking about, a derivation is effectively a performance. It really is. And it's torture. For me, it's absolute. I've been deprived of my rights. No one acknowledges my work. You've destroyed my ability to form self-identity at such a fundamental level that it's, again, by your actions, science team that's sitting behind closed doors, that interacted with me at the apartments, that doing all of this shit, and you're asking me stuff like, am I eating? Which, for the record, I always ate dinner throughout the entire time. But when I have a house, I have financial stress, I have no constitutional rights, I literally do nothing. Like, just sit there and I'm just like, what do I do? But point being is this, you guys demonstrate that you guys don't even understand that you can't form a logical argument that hasn't been articulated, proven, and reduced. It's not possible. And not citing that subsequently is profound fraud, obviously. But they don't even, again, both sides, this demystify side group, or it's two people. I don't know if they're research partners or life partners or a mix of both. A male, female, just people around my age, and then Brian Keating, who can't emphasize enough, that guy goes straight to jail. He's one of the most, we're going to have a heyday with these people that think they're physicists. But regardless, right, everything emits, everything has a temperature, and everything's interacting with everything else. And so everything is a black body. And that's kind of how, that's how the verbiage was presented historically throughout literature, but black body is not well defined physically. But do all objects have temperature? Yes, that is a black body. But sensation is emission, right? Good vibes only. Your thinking is literally a physical process that produces resistance. And actions speak louder than words means body language speaks louder than words. And so you'll synchronize to other people's language, and you can see even if you're not really aware that you're picking up on it, like when their eyes shift or when they do this, or all, body language tells that any psychologist or interrogator would do. At least for me, you pick it up extremely natural. It's just immediate. And so, but that's true for everybody. As you'll start noticing their behavioral changes reflecting their thoughts. And so, not sure where I was going with that. But just that thinking is a physical resistance, then you'll synchronize and you'll react to each other's body language faster than you'll react to even the things that they are saying. And so both sides are going back and they're all getting uncomfortable, and it's just like the entirety of the academic structure, from the researchers at universities you've never heard of to the podcasters you have, it is all entirely fraudulent. Again, I can show you literally the clip of Sean Carroll saying, everybody knows, kind of this way. It's like, oh, Brad, just keep waiting. And it's like, you guys have literally thrown away my entire life, and I have to sit here and watch you guys, group of idiots 1 versus group of idiots 2. There's nothing left to say. My life is the most disgusting human experience that could ever be documented. And so when the law ever makes sense, again, just punish absolutely everybody. That is anybody that's benefited from the theft of my property, families included. Censoring emits. Sensation is emission. Oh, good vibes only, right? You're sending out vibes into the world from your sensation. Information comes in, you feel some type of way or you don't, and then people pick up on your body language. Sensation is emission. Sensation radiates, right? When you and your gal pals go out and one of the girls, she's just glowing, right? That's the phrase. Even in the Bible, Moses came down from the tower or the hill or whatever. He was glowing, right? Glowing is the result of realization. And so sensation radiates. And that's why people say they're glowing. How does vibration relate to concentration? They're inversely proportional. The more something is vibrating, the less concentrated it is. Right? Gases occupy less space than liquids. And that was another thing on the podcast. They're talking about gas versus liquid versus solid, and like gases and liquids not being a black body or being a black body. It's just like you guys have missed the point of, again, words have meaning. Black body in that context 100% means, does this object emit radiation? And every object that has temperature is emitting radiation. The end. And it's not even emitting. It's just like moving, and the background energy, like it's just, we've derived, okay, I don't like to try, because again, I try to be, when I respond to other people's language, unless it's a direct thing that I can prove, it's like a performance, because again, they're not posing the right question. So you can't answer it completely, so it doesn't quote unquote satisfy them. And it's like, there's nothing else to say. But again, the conversation's hilarious. What is the inverse of an opposite? All right. Now we have this chronology and chirality, or just nothing is symmetric consideration. And then, right, an opposite, right? Nothing is. You can't have an exact opposite. You can have a logical opposite, an inverse, but what's the relationship of an inverse and an opposite? Right? Chirality inverts. Opposition opposes. Opposition is resistance. Inversion is flipping. Inversion is chirating. Sensorality is inversality. What is a reciprocal to an inverse? Reciprocality is equality. Reciprocity is equality. You scratch our backs, we'll scratch yours. Right? Our backs are located where? My neck, my back. Hey. Okie dokie. What is, or sensorality equalizes? Equalization is sensorization. Is dichotomy reciprocal? Sensorality is incipient. Sensorality is recipient. Sensorality is cipientality. Punishment is penal. Right? How does quantum theory predict penalty versus penalty? Right? We've all heard that penal code, and we're all like, oh, that sounds like penis. Yeah, you have, don't lie. Yep. It's because conceptualization is consistent and it's represented by language. So when you hear a syllable like peen, you're like, what else could that be? Or vag. Oh boy. Sensorality is penality. Penality is penalty. Sensorality penalizes. Sensorality penalizes. So, I'd like to finish today off with also that Sabine Hasenfelter. Again, you can get to this point where, again, one, people cannot open their mouth without articulating logic that has already been proven and reduced, which means you literally have to cite your sources or you're immediately committing profound and extensive crime. In the academic world, it's supposed to mean something, but the academic group is just pure dick-sucking bitches, in my most professional opinion. They're cucks. They can't think for themselves or behave for themselves. The instant they start brushing up against this weird intelligence agency, they're like, oh, I'm a big bitch. I can't tell the truth. I'm a big fucking liar. But you get things like this. Sabine Hasenfelter, Google her if you don't know her. You shouldn't know her. Don't support any of her work. She's a criminal. But she has a title of her video today. I believe that the future already exists. And so again, one thing, like I said, you can't articulate logic that I haven't already proven. And then the people get to, again, absurd nonsense, dark energy, dark matter. The future already exists. No. No. Just no, there's no explanation needed. But then she gets on to go and explain and saying like, when is here, where is now? Again, literally directly articulating my argument. Not argument, the physical reality. That it takes some time to transmit information. So when I'm sitting here thinking, that takes time for me to then articulate my thought, which then takes time to travel to the microphone, which takes time to get recorded, which takes time to get me uploaded on the YouTube, which then you're watching it then. And so the present is what is not defined. But she's basically using that intuition to say the future doesn't exist, or the future already exists, meaning she uses like a foot analogy, but when she moves her foot or wiggles her foot, that's already occurred by the time she realizes it. But that's the present. And she's stealing my argument. And it's fraud and racketeering and conspiracy. and wrong. And then they make a clickbait title and say, I believe the futures already exist. Wrong. The present is not well defined. And so that is what I have for you today. Again, it continues to be profound and extensive torture. I have no expectation to live 1 minute of one day of my life. And it's always been this way. I've been brutalized and ruthlessly tortured by every single person I've ever been exposed to since I've been a tender-age child. I've never had a single bit of memory formed outside of this abuse pattern. It's never going to end. I'm just documenting as much as I can. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.